What's up, y'all? Hope you're having a good day, and I hope you're having a good week. As always, I want to talk about President Trump launched Operation Legend, which is some sort of operation to send federal agents and federal police of some sort to big cities that are having a surge in violent crime. So I'm going to talk about it, my perspective on it. I want to hear yours. I'm going to talk about people who agree and disagree on the left and the right. So that's what we're going to do today, and I'm glad to be here because I was trying to post all day today, and I've been blocked from posting stuff on my Facebook. I reached out to Facebook. They said there's some sort of internal error that's going on. I don't think I'm being targeted. I think it's just some sort of error, but the reason I haven't posted today yet is because Facebook would not allow me to, but I'm glad to see that live stream is working, so that's a good sign, and that's what it is. I just got my coffee with my Alaska mug because I love Alaska. God bless my friends from Alaska. I do my own pour over coffee now. It's delicious. It's extra good. I got some ghee butter in it. What's up, Lily? It's phenomenal. What's up, Chuck? God bless you. Victoria from Quantico, God bless. What's up, Victoria Gonzalez? Sherry, God bless you. Ellen, God bless you. James said it's totally necessary what Trump is doing. We'll talk about it in a second. You know, everyone's got their perspective on it, but I listened to the speech. I don't want to ruin the segment, but I thought it was very authentic. It was peak level. Lots of people are saying they can't post to Facebook today. Well, it's not good news, but I'm glad I wasn't being targeted because 2 days ago I just found out I had one of the biggest posts on Facebook, and then 2 days later, I can't post. But it's not just me. Like I said, I don't like to play the victim, so it's not like they're targeting me. There's some sort of internal Facebook error. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's annoying, but I'm glad it's not me. And Andrea, what's up, from New Jersey? Someone said trying to stop facts and important info from getting out. I don't know. I think it's an internal error with Facebook. But Twitter, on the other hand, they're going ban crazy, so. What's up, Kathy? What's up, Philip? Mark said, faithful deplorable from San Diego. What's going on? What's up, Patty? What's up, Rick from Perth, Australia? God bless you. Thank you for being here. I got to enjoy my coffee today. I got I got these little shots sometimes now. This one it's like a ritual now. I didn't even mean it to be, but this one is like hemp and turmeric. I'm not exactly sure. I got it from the supermarket. I'm going to try this one. It's like a little turmeric. Hold on, I got to see the ingredients. Let me see. Apple juice, lemon juice, turmeric root, hemp seed oil, organic black pepper. Sounds good. Let's throw it down the hatch. What's up, Sarah? Thank you. I appreciate you. Charlie, what's up? All right, they're a little, I gotta chase it with something. They're a little spicy. Hold on. Yeesh. All right, let's get it. It's not bad. It's pretty good. Woo. Gotta chase that. What's up? Callie in the house. What's up, Brent? What's up, LA? Judy, what's going on? Sherry said, hello from the progressive state of Washington. Progressive. I want to show you guys something real quick. Before I start, I'm going to drink my coffee, but I have not a present, but I was showing it off on Twitter, so I might as well get it. Hold on. I picked this up like last year, actually, but I don't know if you can see. It's an encyclopedia. It might be backwards. The Century Dictionary and Encyclopedia. You open it up. I bought an encyclopedia from the thrift shop or the thrift store market or whatever it's called, flea market. You can't see, but it's from 1889. So it's from the 1800s. Why did I buy an encyclopedia from the 1800s? Because they try to switch words. Progressive, different genders and what terms mean and master bedroom and this and that. They're subverting the dictionary. It's not even about sexuality or left or right or respecting someone's decision to be who they are. It's about subversion, and they like to change words and change legal definitions and change terminology to the point that up means down, down means up, left means right, right means left, and nothing means anything. So I wanted a documented version of what words actually mean from the 1800s, because this is going to be a relic soon, because they're changing everything. So I'm going to put that down, but that's one of the one of the sneakiest little things they have. I had a little funny argument on Twitter. I don't want to get sidetracked because I'm going to start in a second, but I had it publicly because it was like a lesson. This guy was saying, Anomaly, you're too hateful. And I was like, I'm not hateful. And he's like, oh, I didn't mean hate when I said hate. And I'm like, if you didn't mean hate when you said hate, then why are you talking? It was this weird, like, subversive argument I had, but it's not important. It's not like it really meant anything, but I wanted to show people it's like, no matter how nice people are, kind or compassionate, I don't know. You got to mean what you say. You can't just change what words mean. Like if you say the word hate and someone calls you out on it and then you're like, no, I didn't mean that word. Then if your words don't mean anything, what's the point of talking? And that's where we're getting in the world nowadays. It's like everything means nothing. Nothing means everything. Words mean more than action. Words don't mean what they used to. I bought an old encyclopedia so I could document what words actually mean. All right, let's get it. So I found out today that Trump launched, I'm going to put my desk up a little bit. Trump launched Operation Warp Speed. I'm sorry, no, that's that vaccine creepy thing. He launched Operation Legend, which is he's sending federal agents into a few cities because of the violent surge. So before I talked about it, I had to watch the speech and I checked it out. To me, the 4th of July speech was fantastic, but this was one of the best speeches I've heard him do since really then. It was authentic. He sang, that the violence is unacceptable in the cities, and he brought up a few parents who had their kids killed from all this violence. And Legend, Operation Legend, was named after a little kid named Legend, who's 4 years old, or 3 years old, and got murdered in their sleep. So this is what I want to say real quick, because there's actually multiple angles on this. Of course, Democrats are not happy that Trump's sending federal agents. I'm not a big government type guy. People like Rand Paul are saying that he shouldn't do it, that the local government should take care of it. But here's the thing, in my opinion. Let me know yours. At the end of the day, the Overton window keeps shifting further and further and further and further and further, and the left keeps going further and further and further and acting like they're not doing it, from literally, doing what Trump used to do 4 years ago to saying they want to defund police or disband police. They're mad at their, the Portland mayor. They're mad at the Minneapolis mayor, and they're lying about how bad it's really getting in certain areas. For instance, I have two friends that are in Portland. The videos coming out of Portland are insane. They're burning local police precincts or police, offices. They're just smashing federal buildings. They're terrorizing communities, and they're just running rampant. And these Democrat politicians refuse to do anything about it. It's like a game where if it happens, it doesn't happen. And as soon as somebody wants to take care of it, they scream bloody murder and play the victim and act like, Trump's this big, horrible dictator. My personal opinion at this moment, I understand both sides, but I really don't care about optics anymore. I don't care about how they're going to perceive it. These people can't tell the truth. They can't protect their citizens. They can't keep the city safe. They refuse to shut down domestic terrorists. They don't want to protect statues. They don't want to protect federal buildings. They don't want to protect their own citizens. They don't want to protect their own people. Who cares what they think? Who cares what they lie about? Who cares about the optics anymore? Just do the right thing. And I think that's what President Trump is trying to do, is restore law and order to the cities. And they want crime and chaos. I was in a city. Hold on. Let me take a sip of this real quick. I was in Los Angeles for 7 or 8 years. Where I lived in Los Angeles for 3 or 4 of those 8 years, it was not great, but it was okay. It was a pretty big touristy spot, and I could walk to the gym, walk to the supermarket, and I never felt unsafe for 3 or 4 years. It wasn't the greatest thing ever, but, it wasn't that bad. And then I started noticing my Subway, the restaurant, now it had a security guard in it. Now Coffee Bean had a security guard. All these little, coffee stores and restaurants were getting security guards because it wasn't safe anymore. The neighborhood started to decline. There was more trash. There was more tents. There was more homelessness. It was dirtier. There was more crime. There was less law enforcement. There were less rules. Driving home with my friend, I saw a woman get mugged. I saw her I don't even know exactly, to be honest, what happened, but she's walking down the street, and, some kid just robs her right in front of us, and we pull over, and then he runs away. Like, it turned into hell. literally overnight, from a safe area you could walk around to literal hell where people were getting robbed right in front of me, where people's houses were getting broken into every single day, where the coffee bean I'd go to every morning was not safe, where it couldn't even, you couldn't even let those girls who work there stay there by themselves. You had to have a security guard. So I've watched this happen, and the Democrat politicians don't care, and it's not nice. Like, they always try to act like they love Hispanics and black people so much, and the neighborhood that I lived in was mostly Hispanic. Not that it matters, white, black, Asian, whatever ethnicity you are. If you're an American citizen, you deserve protection, safety, and security. That should be a priority for every politician. But I'm just saying, because they always claim like they love Hispanics so much, this is where most Hispanic families live, and they didn't care. They did nothing about homelessness. They did nothing about the crime. They did nothing about the violent crime surge. People got shot. Where I used to live, I'd come home and my street would be closed down. I didn't talk about it that much because while I'm there, I don't like to tell you where I am. And in general, I don't dramatize anything, but I had to walk around and I couldn't even get into my house like 3 or 4 times in 2 or 3 years because somebody got murdered right on my street. It happens, where I lived in LA was not even one of the worst areas. I'm telling you, it's a touristy area where people actually want to go. So it got worse and worse and worse, and these Democrats don't care. So now fast forward to Minneapolis, fast forward to Portland and Seattle and these cities that are just going rampant. They're letting domestic terror organizations take over their city. And the news won't cover it. The media won't cover it. They're framing the cops. But what's happening is they're burning down federal buildings. They're burning and breaking down Starbucks, Amazon, local things. They're marching through Beverly Hills saying, "Eat the rich." They're burning police cars in West Hollywood. They're looting stores in Santa Monica, which used to be a nice area. Santa Monica was beautiful 5 years ago. It's trash now. It looks like Venice Beach, worse than Venice Beach used to be. And Venice Beach was always a little grungy, skateboardy. The whole city's going to trash, let alone Portland in these areas and So at a certain point, who cares about what they think? They're never going to tell the truth. They're never going to admit it. They're never going to be strong. They're always going to be weak, naive, and pretend like they're being kind. Who cares if they're going to call Trump this and that? I think, personally, you could disagree with me. A lot of libertarians do and such. But at the end of the day, people want to be safe. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but a majority of this country wants to live in a safe neighborhood. Who wants to think you're going to get murdered when you're going to a coffee bean or Subway, or when your kids are going to school, or get murdered in your house, or get murdered at a barbecue? No one wants that. They could lie. So I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, I don't do the polls. I'm guessing that law and order is, the reason he keeps saying it, law and order probably is a majority sort of thing. Who doesn't want that? So it's really become a divide now where they're going to say he's a dictator, but really what it is Trump doesn't want violence. Like he said 2 years ago, if they can't clean up Chicago, I'm going to do something about it. And they scream bloody murder then too. They're like, oh my God, Trump's so bad. Look what's going on in Chicago. It's disgraceful. 14 people, 15 people got shot at a funeral yesterday. You got dozens of people dying almost every weekend. The numbers are astronomical. These are people being murdered. Black kids being murdered. You care about black lives. Every single weekend in Chicago is a bloodbath, and no one seems to care because there's no political white or police or conservative angle that they could demonize a group with that they don't like. So they won't talk about it. So they don't care about lives. At a certain point, either you let Portland go to trash, you let LA just get trashier and trashier, you let Seattle just smash buildings. As a citizen, you have no rights. As a business owner, you have no rights. But as a criminal, you have rights. God forbid Trump's. So we've already lost our rights. I can't even go in a coffee shop without getting yelled at for having a towel around my face. But they're allowed to go in the street and burn a federal building, and the cops won't do anything about it. At a certain point, you got to do what's right, regardless of what people think, regardless of what they're going to say. And at this point, I would guess, I don't know, it's not 2016. I would guess if you don't get it by this point, if you don't get the deception that's going on in the media, if you don't get what's going on in the world right now and what the dynamic of the situation is, maybe you'll never get it. Maybe you'll get it in a year. I'm not sure. But in my opinion, Trump's worst moves have been when he's tried to be too politically correct and listen to Jared Kushner and Ivanka and try to please people and do stuff. He should stick to, in my perspective, it's up to him, but he should stick to his instinct and do us right and stand up for people, because regardless how they want to act like, the number one threat to these communities is police brutality, it's not. It's homicide, it's murder, it's all of these things that are happening on a daily basis in these communities. It's surging in New York City, it's surging in California. The people on the streets care. The people I know, the Uber drivers, the Lyft drivers, the workers, the plumbers, like the real people who have families, who send their kids to school, nobody wants to live in this trash. It's only like the pseudo-intellectual hipster kids who hate themselves, who do too many drugs, who listen to rap music and think they're, big timers and, Birdman or something. It's like that group's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And at a certain point, it's really not a popularity contest. I know he needs to win the election, but just do what's right. That's my opinion. And let me know yours. But I think Operation Legend, brilliant speech, good idea. They're purposely standing down. They're not letting the cops do what's right. If you've seen I can't even really, maybe I can, but if you could go on certain people's Twitters and see, I'm sure it's on Facebook too, but see some of the footage from Portland. It's pure anarchy. It's like a Chaz. It's been going on for 50 days. They literally lit a police office on fire. They're destroying buildings. They're going out in the streets, terrorizing people. It's domestic terrorism. Not just smashing statues, which is domestic terrorism, smashing buildings. That's domestic terrorism. If you blow up a building, remember the bombers? Oh my God, he blew up a building. Yes, horrible. Killing people's horrible. Blowing up buildings is horrible. That's a crime. That's domestic terrorism. They're doing it every single day, and these Democrats don't care. It's almost like they want Trump to come in to blame. If he doesn't do anything, they say it's not happening and blame him for something else. They're gonna blame him either way. And I think a lot of conservatives or libertarians or even liberals, if you're a Democrat, if you don't care about politics, but a lot of your friends are more liberal and into these organizations, they're going to blame you anyway. If they're not honest, if what they're doing is not from righteousness, if it's not truthful, if they don't have discernment, there is no escaping this type of stuff. They're just going to go further and further and further and further and further. And then your job is eventually going to weed you out because of your skin color. And you're going to wish you said something, because Martin Luther King fought so people didn't discriminate. He wanted people to earn a job based on the content of their character. So back in the day, if you were black and you were qualified and they picked somebody who was less qualified as a white man, that was a great disservice, to Martin Luther King and many others, where we want the best people for the job. We don't care what your skin color is. But now every single corporation in the country is bending over backwards to say, we don't want this many white people. We want black and we want Hispanics, and we're going to target you and get you out of there, not based on your content of your character, not based on your resume, not based on what you provide to the company, solely because of skin color, which is the opposite of what MLK said. So they're not going to stop. That's the point I'm trying to get. That's another microcosm of this whole mindset. But, I have conservative friends who say, I don't agree with what he did. I have progressive friends who, of course, never get it, because they probably never will at this point. If you don't understand the dynamic of the situation going on, at a certain point, you're going to get left behind, because everybody's not just going to sit and watch cities burn. And it's like, to me, I'm just looking at the social justice in Los Angeles when I'm there. Like I showed in my last video, you have a women's march. They're marching past Skid Row, guys. These self-righteous women just have all these signs like, oh, I'm not even gonna say the word blank power, talking about their private part. Like I'm so special. I have power. And I'm like, yeah, God bless you. I love women. You do have power. You're fantastic. You're amazing. I hate bad men and stuff. I'm on page with that, but it's like, it's all about, they don't even care about the thousands of people 2 blocks away from them. The entire downtown Los Angeles is turning into a war zone. It's disgusting. And they don't even notice. They're walking past, oh, I'm such a good person. I posted an Instagram post. They're walking past tents and trash and leaving their signs. If you saw, it was very ironic in my last video. They leave a sign right next to a tent that says, when we turn the other cheek is when we do it. That's what you're doing. So they don't care about this stuff, and they never have cared about this stuff. So Los Angeles is never going to get better until people get a conservative leader or Democrats stop lying and having wrong priorities. Portland's not going to get better. Seattle's not going to get better. New York City's not going to get better. Chicago's not going to get better, because they're not getting to the root of the problem. In fact, they're mind controlling and subverting everybody to run in the other direction and make it worse and ignore it and run in circles about things that kill 9 people a year. Meanwhile, 9 people can get killed in 2 days in Chicago in 1 weekend. That's one city that more people die than police kill unarmed black Americans in one city. And you're talking about the whole country all year. And that's the big scoop. It's not the big scoop. It's an issue, but on a worldwide scale, or a countrywide scale, it's like 0.01% or 0.1%. And if you talk about 99.9%, you're a bad person because they want to control the conversation with corporate America, with McDonald's and Gushers, doing their hashtags. Give me a break. So, I'm over the optics. Of course, you should be smart about what you say and be nice about it and try to be a fair, compassionate person. But this idea that we have to bend over backwards forever, the Overton window has moved too far. And if that costs Trump the election, well, then so be it. Because it's better to lose doing the right thing than it is to lose doing the wrong thing. Bending over backwards, trying to please people. At a certain point, if you allow this type of Overton window to slide, you don't have a country anymore. If you don't have borders, you don't have a country. If you don't have statues, you don't have a history or culture. And they're trying to do that. This is not activism. This is a revolution. This is a Marxist communist revolution. Destroy the history, nothing's real. Up is down, down is up, left is right is left. We don't see it. It doesn't exist. You can't go to work, but you can go to Amazon and pick up your package. They're destroying the whole country. There's going to be nothing left, so it doesn't matter. He might as well do exactly what he's doing. I think it's fantastic, and who cares what they think? Either somebody in this country, Trump or others, or there's going to be an awakening where you restore order and we have a flow of a country where you can go to business, go to work, walk around and it's safe, or you're not. And I'm telling you, I even see it now. I moved from a city that got less and less safe and more trashed and more homeless and more disgusting. And so do most rational, sane people. So you're going to be left with the most degenerate. It's only going to get worse. And then what they're going to do is start coming for your neighborhood. They already did it. In LA, they started marching through Beverly Hills. They don't take care of Hollywood. They don't take care of West Hollywood. They don't take care of Silver Lake. They don't take care of Echo Park. They don't take care of downtown Los Angeles. They don't take care of Venice Beach. So then they go to Santa Monica and destroy it. And then they go to Beverly Hills and start threatening them. God forbid somebody actually takes care of their community. I'm not making excuses for everyone in Beverly Hills, but it's like they're going to come to you next. Then they're going to Orange County and saying, oh, you guys are the neo-Nazis. We're coming for you. Oh, yeah, it's clean and safe and nice, and people actually clean up trash, and it's not a complete hellhole, and there's no, homelessness everywhere. Oh, yeah, that's so terrible. You're such good people over there. These people are wicked degenerates. Either they're completely brainwashed or they're dishonest, or I don't know what they're doing, but to be quite frank, I don't really care anymore. At a certain point, do what's right. So Operation Legend is brilliant. Trump showing people who had their kids killed by crime, which if you want to compare what Black Lives Matter's protesting for to what Trump's talking about, on Trump's side, there's going to be 100, 200, 300, 500 times more casualties because what he's talking about affects millions of Americans. And what they're talking about is a noble path, but the way they're doing it is completely backwards. So, I appreciate him for doing that. I know Rand Paul disagrees with his libertarianness. I know a lot of people think it's bad optics, but at a certain point, the Overton window needs to shift back to normal. You get what I'm saying? It's like you can't even defend yourself anymore. It's like somebody needs to help these people. If you live in Seattle, you live in Portland, in the bad areas, not the nice areas. If you live in Los Angeles or Chicago in the bad areas, you're wishing somebody could help you. You're getting murdered going to the grocery store, going to work out, sleeping. This is not good for good people and stuck in these bad areas. If you're wealthy or successful, you can afford to move away, but a lot of people can't. So they're waiting for help. They're not going to get it from the Democrat mayors. They're not going to get it from the Democrat politicians. To be quite honest, they're not going to get it from most Republicans. But Trump actually cares. He wants a country that doesn't... They've normalized gang violence in Chicago and murder. I listen to rappers like Lil Reese and all these guys from Chicago and stuff. They call it Chirac. So does Kanye West. They've already normalized it. Like, there's a war zone in America, and it's called Chicago, Chirac, like Iraq, and it's normalized in rap music, and people actually want to be like it. So you go to the streets in Brooklyn, it's not a game to these people. If you grow up in the suburbs, it's a game to you. You just think it's fun. You go to Brooklyn, you go to certain parts of Jamaica, Queens, this is what these kids are listening to. So they're trying to be their rapper, and then they're going to turn their city into a war zone. It's all mind control. So it's normalized, and Trump doesn't want it to be normal. These progressives and these liberals, they just, this is normal. We don't see it, or that's cool. That's how they should act. But, if anybody acts like Candace Owens or Ben Carson, they're bad. Why? Because they're a neurosurgeon and they want to, have self-accountability, that's bad to you, but you think it's okay that 13 people get murdered in Chicago, little girls, and you never want to talk about it? Why don't they talk about it? Because they don't care. They're not good people. They masquerade their Marxist communist ideas behind a whole racial ethnic group and think that makes them some sort of, Martin Luther King. They're disgusting people. So when thousands of people are getting murdered, hundreds of kids, you go into any inner city and you go to the school, you're going to see pictures on the wall that say, we lost a life, we lost a life. You go to a suburban school, you don't see that because kids aren't getting murdered that often. But you go into Watts or Compton, that's the reality that certain people have to live with. I don't want there to be martial law. I don't wish this on anybody, but when I watch Democrat mayors allow domestic terrorism, that's what they're doing. Lighting a federal court on fire, a federal house on fire, lighting things on fire left and right. It's not something that happened for a week. It's still happening in Portland. It's still happening in Seattle. And the mayors are so progressive, they're allowing it to happen. They don't want to do anything about it. In fact, they want to do the opposite. Instead of sending more law enforcement, they want to send less. I don't want law enforcement to bother you for marijuana. I don't want law enforcement to come to your house. But if your neighborhood's getting burned, that's who you call. For instance, Megan Thee Stallion, or whatever her name is, she's a famous rapper. Megan Thee Stallion was all Black Lives Mattered out a month ago and saying Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 which is fine. But then she gets shot in the foot. She's hanging out with whoever, her boyfriend at the time, gets shot in the foot. Go read her Instagram post. Who did Megan Thee Stallion call? The police, because that's who you call when you get shot. That's who you call when something's on fire. If you're not calling the fire department, that's who you call in an emergency. So they're having an emergency in these cities, in Chicago, in Portland, and they're defunding the police. They're trying to have less of them. Even the biggest degenerate is going to call the police in a bad situation. That's what they're there for. And they're getting rid of them as things are increasing. It's only going to get worse, and I could care less at this point what progressives think about it. Somebody said advocating for martial law is exactly what you're calling for. I'll tell you what. I'm not advocating or calling for martial law. People need to calm down because there's going to be a problem, reaction, solution. So for instance, when I lived in Los Angeles, I told people for 3 months, I said, stop doing what you're doing. Stop with all this nonsense. The shutdown is going to lead to a martial law type situation. Nobody listened. Nobody cared. Whatever. And then I had degenerate losers start burning down my neighborhood, burning down my coffee shop, setting police cars on fires, breaking into every single building in West Hollywood, looting Santa Monica, looting Beverly Hills. And guess what? As a citizen of Los Angeles at that moment, who do you want to see in your neighborhood? Do you want to see military people or do you want to see these degenerate criminals? I'm sorry, you want to see the military people. So what did the military do? Did they come in and did they take over the whole city? No, they kicked out the degenerates and then they left. There is a martial law threat. I've been talking about it for 5 or 10 years. But at a certain point, when I used to go to Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn and get threatened for just literally being there, you want to see police officers because they make you feel safe. I'm not a big police guy. I don't want to see police all the time. But if you're getting threatened that somebody wants to kill you, you'd rather see a police than the person trying to kill you. So it's the same dynamic. In Portland, at this moment, it's not martial law. Someone has to take care of it. You can't just let the whole country burn or the whole city burn. There's millions of people there that don't want that to happen, and some do, but I don't know. It's a tough situation either way. Do you let them just let the police stand down and let federal buildings burn and let your statues burn and let your whole... This is a war. This is a war on America. This is a war on our history. This is a war on our culture. It's a war on Christianity. You have churches burned. We're at war. I'm sorry to say it. So if they're going to go and target the criminals and the domestic terrorists, that's fine. If you're a domestic terrorist and you light a building on fire, you don't have the luxury when the military shows up or when federal agents show up to say, oh no, you can't arrest me because I'm a libertarian. You can't light a building on fire. That's not allowed. That's beyond a crime that's acceptable. It's not like they're coming to your house and being like, did you sell weed? It's like you're burning a federal building. You should go to prison for a long time. So that's what they're doing, and they're getting away with it. So I'm sorry, this is a country. You can't just burn stuff down. It's not the same as martial law, but at the end of the day, I understand the complicated issue. If you do that, it's this. If you do that, it's this. Me personally, I'm saying when they burned down my neighborhood and when they were running rampant in my neighborhood, I would rather military people there than these people. And they came and they made it better and they left. And that's just the truth. Someone said we need to take back control. That's real. If you don't want martial law, stop these people from doing that. And in general, it's not like out of nowhere. Like they've already shut down the country for 6-7 months. If they come and try to administer vaccines or something, yeah, it's a red flag. But at this point, I have no problem with Trump sending in federal agents. I don't know that he's sending in military. It's not like he's sending in 10,000 military. He sent in the National Guard to restore order, and it worked. And he's sending in like 30 or it's like a low number of federal agents. It's not like he's sending in 10,000 troops to just round people up. I'm somebody who's talked about this for 15 years. It's not like I'm not aware of this whole conversation, but you can't burn our country to the ground. I don't know. Someone said, why exactly are these governors allowing it to happen? Why are they protecting criminals? They're at a certain point, if you're not in the right and you just constantly make mistakes and just don't tell the truth. I don't really know. I can't really find the source of it, but the Overton window has shifted so far. They've adapted to the lie. They've adapted to the wickedness. So there's no low that they won't go. I'll give you an example. You have epidemiologists who studied in school for like 10 years, got this major thing, and they are lying to you about which protest really spreads the virus. They're trying to make a scientific point that you spread the virus when you protest the lockdown, but it's healthy to protest in bigger numbers for Black Lives Matter. These are like well-researched, highly trained and highly celebrated epidemiologists lying to you. They're untrustworthy. They've lost their minds. I don't know what to tell you. Like, why is the Portland mayor doing this? They're sick people. What type of person would allow this? What's wrong with the Chicago mayor? Do you want me to start? Want me to list 30 things that are wrong with her? She's a wicked person. She's not a good leader. She's a liar. She's, a complete deceiver. We could go through it for 30 minutes, but at a certain point, are you going to just let people get murdered every single weekend in Chicago? There's a website for it where it's just a ticker, people look at that stuff, and just watch that people getting murdered in Chicago all the time. It's happened for 4 years. Are we just going to normalize that? Just be like, yeah, that's what it is. These people just murder each other all the time, and black kids get murdered every weekend. But let's not try to help them or anything. Let's just allow the Democrats to just let it happen. You could do that, or at a certain point, you got to do something about it. And I'll say this too. In Portland and Seattle, they support, I'm not going to say financially or literally, but they support the domestic terrorists. We've known for years these people were doing domestic terrorism. We've had video footage of it. We've had them attacking people, everything they've accused right-wing of people. They've done times 100. We've had the evidence for 3 years now of hundreds of domestic terror attacks on people, on statues, on buildings, on other people. They don't care. They never cared. They're working with these people. They support those groups. They're hoping that they do that stuff. But then, this is the trick to Marxism. They always come for each other. So Ted Wheeler has always been cool with the domestic terrorism, but now they're coming for Ted Wheeler, and he doesn't know what to do. All he can do is blame Trump. Jacob Frey doesn't say anything, and then they come for him. Because Marxist ideologists and these anarcho-communist terrorist groups, they don't have loyalty. They're not operating out of righteousness or fairness, or they don't have a strategy of success or building a successful city. They're just chaotic terrorists. So someone's got to take rid of the terrorists. If Trump goes and sends 10,000 military to round up citizens, yeah, it's slow down, bro. But if Trump sends in 30 or 40 federal agents to stop domestic terrorism because they're burning police stations, who cares? It's not the same as martial law. But I understand the argument. It's a lose-lose either way. Those are my thoughts. I'll read some of yours, and I'm gonna get to it in a second. But in general, the pros and cons. If Trump doesn't do anything, it's just gonna get more dangerous, more out of control. For instance, before the National Guard got sent in Los Angeles, they burned and destroyed entire neighborhoods, guys. They sent in, Trump didn't do it. California sent in the National Guard. They didn't want to do it for a week, and it got worse and worse, and they were outnumbered. People were looting stuff, and eventually they sent in the National Guard. If they're not going to deploy their own troops, it's just going to get worse. I hear what you're saying. He could let it be and just let people get terrorized and things burn, or he could do something about it. I understand both. If he let them do it, I understand it. Yeah, just, I guess, let them destroy their own neighborhoods and not do anything about it. I get that theory, but at a certain point, people's lives are on the line. You know, everybody talks about they're justified in burning entire neighborhoods in the name of George Floyd, but Trump's not allowed to save or attempt to save like hundreds of people's lives, or at least, you know, restore the city and restore our heritage and culture. And what are they're burning down statues. And I'm not even talking about Confederate statues. One, those should stay up too, because in general, I don't believe in just destroying statues. But anyway, they're destroying churches. They're destroying, you know, St. Louis, who had nothing to do with slave owners or anything. They're destroying 20, 30, 50 statues. Thomas Jefferson, what's his name? They're destroying black military, memorials and things that make no sense. And what are they replacing it with, guys? This is a cultural war, whether you realize it or not. What are they replacing it with? What's on the street in New York City? Black Lives Matter. So they're destroying your history. They're destroying your churches. They're destroying your culture. They're destroying your business. They're destroying your police station. And then they replace it with their new religion and their new ideology, which is Marxism and Communism, which, if you study from the Bolshevik Revolution to what eventually became Stalin, what eventually led to other countries, has killed tens of millions of people. And it's not hard to see why. These are wicked people. They're trying to have a Marxist revolution, whether people realize it or not. It might sound crazy if you don't read history books, but you can study Bolshevik and communist ideology from the 18 and 1900s. It's all written. It's all what they're doing. And they've also done regime change wars in other countries. Look how they invaded Syria, the United States government. Look how they invaded Libya. Look what they did in Ukraine to get, someone more favorable towards their policies into office. It's the same story over and over and over and over again, and then I'm the crazy one for noticing the pattern. So they're destroying our country, they're destroying our history, and replacing it with Marxism and Communism, which is a wicked, horrible ideology. And they don't teach you about Bolsheviks, and they don't really teach you about communists that much, because the communists and the Bolsheviks won the war, okay? Not the original Bolsheviks, but that ideology beat Hitler in World War II, worked with the United States. And then I say this all the time, the U.S. took 1,600 Nazi scientists, the rocket engineer Werner von Braun, who started NASA, who was friends with Walt Disney. He came from Nazi Germany. We took the Nazis, we worked with the communists, and we defeated the Nazis, but really just took them in, a lot of them, the smartest ones, I guess, or maybe the most wicked, who knows. But you don't learn about this stuff because they won the war. Why is it happening? Because they won. What's a central bank? There's a quote. I'll read it so I don't misquote it. Hold on one second. Lenin central bank quote. This is a Lenin quote. You could look it up yourself. It says, the establishment of a central bank is 90% of communizing a nation. That's Vladimir Lenin said that. So we had a central bank in 1918. We fought these wars. And then now what's happening? They're destroying our religion. They're destroying our culture. They're trying to subvert our history, our dictionary, our entire way of life, literally everything. And then when the push comes to shove, they tell you that they're doing science. It's science, guys. Science says you have to stay home. Science says that Amazon has to take over your business. Science says that you could pack in an airplane, but you can't play tennis. Science says that you can't start your business, but we can run our business. That's science, guys. Science says you can't protest with 200 people in Huntington Beach. That's science. But science also says that 10 million people nationwide could protest Black Lives Matter, because we've now changed the dictionary definition of what a virus means and what a disease is, and we consider, racism to be a health pandemic. So now we're going to pretend like viruses don't spread when we push our ideology. These people are wicked. So I don't care at this point what President Trump does. I don't want him to go in and send the military in on innocent people. But if he's going to save our culture, if he's going to save our cities, if he's going to save, people who are being terrorized in these cities, if he's going to save black children and innocent black men and women who are just getting murdered left and right because nobody cares about them, if that's what he's going to do, that's what he's going to do. Because whether you want to admit it or not, look what's happening in 2020. There's a war on Christianity. There's a war on America, and there's a war on our culture to replace it with one of the most sick, wicked ideologies in human history that has led to more deaths in World War II than Hitler did. Stalin killed more people than Hitler. And if you add in the Bolshevik Revolution, it's one of the most wicked revolutions in modern history. You don't learn about the Armenian genocide because they were Christians who were murdered at the hands of another religion. So you don't learn about this stuff. Why are there not a million movies about the Armenian genocide? Because they don't want to tell you about that. They leverage history and they leverage the framing of history to have one group be the victim, one group be the oppressor, so they can destroy you and you can't push back. If you push back against them, it's racism, sexism, Islamophobism, xenophobism, and anti-Semitism. They have a name for everything. But if they can just bash you and destroy you, you can't even defend yourself. You're the McCloskeys. You try to just defend your own property, and now you're the bad guy. It's all a trap. That's why I bought the old dictionary and encyclopedia, because they're subverting language. They're subverting culture. They're subverting the media. It's all subversion tactics, and this is like end-stage nonsense. That's why you see all this stuff. It has a lot more to do with a lot more than just the COVID-19 virus. Obviously, that's a part of it, but the entire strategy behind it, the entire deception from all of these health experts. You're telling me you went to school for 10 years for an epidemiologist degree and you think a virus discriminates politically or racially? You think that's how a virus works? Well, it's the Black Lives Matter protest, so I guess we won't affect people here even though there's a million people in the street. Oh, it's an anti-lockdown right-wing protest. We're going to infect everybody. It's only at the Trump rallies. These people are liars, guys. It's so at what point do you stand up for yourself? At what point do you send in somebody who's going to restore law and order? I say it's now. Maybe it's not so libertarian, but at a certain point, libertarianism's not going to work. But I've never considered myself a full libertarian, but in general, I don't know. I would think that even in a successful libertarian society, you're allowed to have law and order. It's not like you're allowed to go murdering and burning down police stations, and that's part of the, constitutional right. I don't think so. Shelley said, I don't believe anything about history anymore. I mean, there's truths, but to be honest, look how they operate now. Look what they say about what's happening in the current day. That's really, I can't tell you what happened in the 1900s or the 1800s or the 1700s. I could pretend like I know everything. I've read a lot of books, but I know what's happening now, or at least I have a better grasp of it because I've lived in it. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've traveled around the country. I've been able to witness it and live through a time where I'm allowed to see it. And look what the media does now. Look what the education system does now. Look how much they lie. They couldn't possibly lie more. The story that they're telling in schools, the story that they're telling on the news media, the story that they're telling in music, the story that people are going to hear in 20 years and think that that's history, it's all a lie. It's all inverted. So it makes you question a lot of things, absolutely, because if that's what they're doing now, how can I believe a story from 1850? How do I know that George Washington was who they say he was? It's interesting to say the least, but unfortunately, that's where we are. Someone said, remember communist China killed millions? Communism, socialism, Bolshevikism, and Marxism is responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of people. And it's not a smart ideology. It never works. It has a 0% success rate, so much so that even Elon Musk calls it out. It doesn't work. And this is the difference between engineering and creating. An idea doesn't matter if it doesn't work. If you're a scientist, you can make something up. If you plug it in and it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's why every time they tried it, it's failed. Even now, you could say America is at a breaking point. We have to figure out how to move forward and how to make this work. But that's a whole nother conversation. Someone said they don't teach us about the creation of the Federal Reserve for a reason. We don't learn anything important. It's insane. Yeah, the Federal Reserve has to be one of the biggest, in the financial world. What's bigger than that? They control the money, so you don't learn about it. All right, I'll answer a few questions. That's my little rant for today, but thank you, Peggy. I appreciate you. I'll answer a few, and then I'm going to take off. I'm glad that I was allowed to live stream. I haven't been able to post all day. Someone said there are over 1 million people in China in concentration camps. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the Uyghur Muslims or however you say it, but I know that's a big crisis. The reason I don't talk about it, I'm not trying to hide it. I just don't understand that much about it, but If you look at anything that liberals complain about, and I'm not trying to make it a political issue because the Republicans are full of it too, but if you look at anything they complain about, the bad let's go through all the liberal talking points, and then I'm going to get to a new question. Muslims. First of all, Muslims are being treated way worse in China. They're treated, I would say, pretty well here. A lot of people want to come. I got friends who have family in Pakistan who want to come here. This is not the worst place that Muslims are treated. They have more freedom here than they have in China, where they're being rounded up and taken off into camps, according to multiple reports, and no one cares. In other countries, it's even worse as well. No one talks about it. There's massive, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, there's a whole conflict going on there. They're fighting and killing each other. No one seems to care about that or talk about that much. In America, we don't treat these people the worst. In some cases, it's some of the best treatment, and no one seems to care. LGBT, this is the greatest place on the face of the earth to be gay. It's the fairest and most reasonable, or at least the most free place to be gay. You can't be this gay in Iran or Saudi Arabia. That's not how it works. Most places in the world, even in like Brazil and stuff, they go harder at it. So it's the best place to be gay, and everybody complains all the time, and they act like it's the worst. Any of these little side issues that they talk about, police brutality, there's this one huge viral video sharing on Twitter. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe police treated this guy like this. He's getting kicked and stuff. It's terrible. It wasn't even from the US. They took it from some Middle Eastern country and tried to pretend like it was America. That's how police operate in most countries around the world. So it's not that America doesn't have stuff to work on, but yeah, when it comes to the Muslim camp thing in China, I don't know that much about it, but from people say that, they're getting rounded up and put in camps, they don't care about anything. Slavery in Libya, organ harvesting all over Asia and also in Libya. You have literal slavery in the world today. The human trafficking thing that nobody ever talks about except for on the right wing. There's thousands of terrible things going on in the world, and they just blame Trump and America when we're not responsible. All right. Got crack. Do I know about the new dollar Trump wants to bring out, this gold back? Nah, I don't know about that. I've heard rumors and stuff, but someone said, I realize how much of your time, passion, and energy goes into what you do, said Kathy. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I want to say this real quick, and then I'll get to another question. I'm very blessed to do what I do, because to be honest, it's not like I have the option. I'm so passionate about it, and I do it, and I work hard, but I don't know what else I would do. Everybody tunes into what I'm doing. How could you not care about this stuff right now? 10 years ago, no one cared about this stuff, but now you can't not care about it because they come to your work and then they discriminate based on your race. They discriminate based on your sexuality, if you're straight, or it's like they hate you for what they claim they used to fight for 10 years ago, sexual freedom. It's all backwards now. So I'm very blessed. I do work hard, but I don't consider it a bad thing, because even if I worked a corporate job or did something else, I couldn't escape what I'm talking about now. It's like the doors are closing in, so I'm very grateful to be in a position to do this and really, get compensated for it, because it's much better than having to deal with corporate America nowadays or all this crazy stuff they're doing. So I'm actually in a great situation, and I'm grateful for that. Someone said, what's the worst persecution you've had for your beliefs? I don't know, because I've always been kind of headstrong. I've never really cared what anybody thinks. So whether it's a job or an opportunity, I'm not I don't know. I'm not like a wannabe where I'm like, oh, I need this. If they say you can't do it or you can't say that, I'm out the door anyway. I'm already back at my computer proving them wrong. So I can't say I've been massively persecuted, because it doesn't faze me. The hate, the loss of opportunity, it's just fuel. It's like fuel for the tank. You can't sign to this label, you can't do that. And I'm like, oh, well, you guys are losers, so I'm going to do it myself and do it 10 times better. And then I did. So I have that type of mentality, not to be cocky, but you say no, you close that door. I don't just mope around and pretend like I'm persecuted and play the victim. I'm like, all right, well, now I'm going to go make my own door, and I'm going to make my own lane. So I fuel off that doubt. Someone said this is the fall of the Republic and the rise of the U.S. corporation. I'm very, not surprised, but disappointed in Republican leadership as well. Amazon is just taking over. Amazon is just doing everything, and they're destroying physical corporations. This is not a free market. This is not even close to conservative or libertarian, not even close. And none of them seem to care. None of them seem to have a timeline. They gave people $1,200, and now people are going to run out of unemployment at the end of July. Do they have a plan? Are they going to open up? It's a mess, guys. It's a mess. I'm not trying to like be a downer, but it's an absolute mess what they're doing. Will there be a President West in 2020? I mean, Kanye's going to run to the point where he's going to take votes away from Trump and Biden, but he's not going to win. But he's definitely throwing his thoughts out there and putting himself, trying to get right in. Even if his name's not on the ballot, you know, people could write him in. So he's not really a serious candidate this time, but he's enough where people are going to vote for him. Maybe he'll get like 1% of the vote or something, 2%. Thank you, Erica. Someone said, doubt has killed more dreams than failure ever will. That's a great quote. Thank you, Joe. Absolutely. I'm going to read this real quick. Terry said, it's only a few blocks of Portland. It's not under siege. They're lying to you like they do with COVID. Terry, here's the thing, though. I have friends in Portland. Yeah, it's not the whole city. Just like when they destroyed Los Angeles, they didn't destroy the whole city. They destroyed 5 blocks or 6, 7, 8, 10 blocks across the city. So, but here's the thing. Do the businesses in that area deserve to have a law and order? Or is that how cities work? That you just let domestic terrorists take over 6 blocks? I've never said it's the whole city of Portland, but you're like, oh, it's just a few blocks. Are we Syria now, where we're like, oh, you know, Portland's a great city, but those 4 blocks are just run by ISIS. You know, just don't go there. They're going to burn police stations and Starbucks. But like, you know, besides that, it's great. That's not the city I want to live in. I don't live in Portland, but we're not a third world country until we are. Like, and no disrespect to Syria, I have friends there, but like, that's normal to you? That's like, oh, well, the whole city's not under siege. The terrorists just took over a few blocks. Like, so why are they taking over a few blocks? Why are they taking over federal buildings? Like, are you kidding me? If they took over my store and there's just terrorists running rampant and just spray painting everything, smashing in windows, that's what they're doing. I can show you the footage. Smashing in windows, burning stuff down, lighting fires, everything's defaced, everything's broken. That's cool to you? Like, oh, well, it's not the whole city. I mean, what if your business is in there? What if you live around the block? What if you have a family there? That's okay with you because it's just a few blocks? We're not a country that's hijacked. Every church should have a security guard. Every street shouldn't be run by a terrorist organization. Okay, I don't play that. But to each their own, you know, to each their own. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you. Someone said, we will never get rid of martial law if they come for the Patriots too. Yeah, but in general, there's multiple crises going on. I don't know what year you guys have been paying attention to, but we're facing an economic assault. We're facing a freedom assault. Like, you can't even do half of the things. They don't have a real plan. Like, you're not going to get your freedom back at this point. It has nothing to do with the military or martial law or what Trump does to Portland or not. They don't want to run the NFL. They don't want to do NBA. They don't want you to go on a cruise or travel normally. Like, every aspect of life is under threat to never go back to normal, to never go back to full strength. And the biggest threat, in my opinion, right now is you can't go to school without the vaccine. You can't get on the plane without the vaccine. You can't go on the cruise without the vaccine. You can't go to the NBA without the vaccine. You can't go to the supermarket without the vaccine. That's the biggest threat right now. It's not what Trump doesn't. He's going to send 30 federal agents to Portland, guys. It's not like he's sending 10,000 people to just go slaughter people in their homes. So the bigger threat right now is our civilization is under siege. You get what I'm saying? It's like, this is crunch time in modern history. I'm not trying to be a fear monger, but like, this is crunch time. This is the moment that this is all boiling down to. So like, if you lose your city, you're going to have bigger fish to fry than wondering if Trump's going to send in the military or not. And I'm not thrilled about it, but they shut the whole country down. Like, I can't even go to like 1/5 of stores. They're all closed down. You go to LA, you go to Santa Monica, all the shops are still boarded up. It looks like a war zone, guys. We're living in like Syria now. I mean, it's not as dangerous as it was, but in some parts of the city, it actually is. You know, in Chicago, it is that dangerous. In other parts of the city, it's more dangerous than certain areas of Afghanistan. So I'm not trying to fearmonger, but it's like either we're going to save this country or we're not. So I don't think there's like 10 threats going on. Martial law is obviously one of them, but there's things that are happening regardless of whether Trump sends federal agents to Portland. But I appreciate the dialogue and, you know, agree to disagree. I'm fired up. I'm passionate. I'm not angry. I'm just kind of, I'm like into it. But, you know, now that I stand up, when I sit down, I have bad posture. Now I'm standing up. I got the stand-up desk, and then we take it down. You see what I'm saying? Hold on. You guys see the Golden Girl shirt? Uh-oh, it's your girls. I'm going to go full Betty White on the game. Let's go. Look at that. That's who's going to save the country right now, folks. If it's not Anomaly and the Golden Girls, who's it going to be? They're trying to cancel my girls. It's 2020. I got technology out here, though. I'm just flexing on them. It's turning into like a whole arsenal in here. You feel what I'm saying? I'm ready for anything. All right, I'm gonna read that super chat. Mariori said, I agree. No one sees how we're losing our liberties. It's so frustrating. How could you not see? I said earlier, this is like they're testing mind control. Like I've said it for a while, and I know this might sound crazy to some people, but I've seen since I was 18, people are mind controlled. Like they literally can determine what you buy and what you do. Like they're pushing the limits of the mind control, and this year is like end stage. Like let's see what we can make people do. You know, let's see how far we could go. And I would say we're not doing very well. I would say we're probably getting like a D-, but you know, that could all change. It's still halfway through the semester. We could turn our grades around, but it's like, how much can we make these people do? And everyone's just doing it. It reminds me of, I said it on Twitter. I'm going to try to say this without being inappropriate. It's a South Park episode. I don't know if you guys saw the South Park episode, but they have these circular fast cars that just drive really fast. But the way to use it is like you hop in something and something goes up. Like, I don't want to say it because I know someone said their kids watch this stuff, but like, it's on my Twitter if you want to go see it. It's like, it's this really weird way to make the car work and no one seems to notice. They're like, oh, this works great. And it just reminds me of 2020. Like, people are just not even questioning it, but whatever. Someone said Young Pharaoh did a great lecture on mind control. Yeah, he crushes. We have to do an Instagram live together. All right. Get through a few more. Someone said, I've been watching it my whole life and I've seen it as a child. I hear you. What can I do now? I'm a longtime federal employee, scared to get canceled. Well, don't be scared. Fear is never the answer, but it's very tricky. Like I said, someone said earlier, like, thank you for doing this. I'm obviously working hard, but like, it's not even hard to be me right now because I've just thrown all my stuff out. So everybody knows where I stand. Like there's federal employees, accountants, people who work for, corporations. They're like closing the walls on all these people because of race, because of political ideology. It's like the Gestapo tactics where they're just like closing in on people. So, don't be scared. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly what to do. All I know how to do is like stand up for myself. For instance, Shelley Luther did a great job, I think. They tried to close her nail salon or hair salon and she didn't do it and she got arrested and then she fought it and then she won. It's got to be stuff like that. I heard a story recently. I don't know the full story, so I'm not going to fully speak on it, but Owen Benjamin, a comedian who got kicked off YouTube and Twitter and even Instagram, I think, he's suing Patreon, or maybe not suing. That's why I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to get it wrong, but he's having his supporters, maybe there's like a legal loophole in California with Patreon because they're not paying. I don't know what it is, but he's challenging Patreon. You know, someone emailed me recently, a Google whistleblower who was on, I think, Project Veritas. I don't know. He's challenging Google. Like, at a certain point, somebody's going to have to challenge the system legally and stand up for themselves. Terry Crews is another one. Like, Terry Crews has a lot to lose. He could have just sat there and said, yeah, Black Lives Matter. I agree with everything you guys say. But he's a man of God. So he said, you know, Black Lives Matter, but at the same time, like, you guys are kind of crazy. You know, Marcellus Wiley. Enough people are going to have to stand up for themselves, even in small ways. But at a certain point, like you said, you know, I got a friend who makes decent money doing accounting, and his work is going crazy. So it's like he's fighting back a little bit, but like you know, like what do you do? But eventually they're going to just keep going. So there's going to have to be enough blowback. I'm thinking this election, albeit it's only a microcosm of everything, like there needs to be a huge message, because if enough people just reject it, like reject their, you know, their nonsensical advertising, and if they see it in their revenue, and you know, I think that could change it. But I don't know. It's a tricky thing. But standing up for yourself, even on a small scale, I think is probably the way. But I don't know. Kelly said, this is a good question. Kelly said, what's up with Twitter wiping out 7,000 users affiliated with QAnon? So Twitter announced this big sweeping, censorship of the QAnon people. I think the reason was like they were harassing Chrissy Teigen, and Chrissy Teigen probably talked to like Twitter or something, and then they decided to go at QAnon people. But here's the thing that's really annoying. And people think I play the fence with this. I really don't. I'm just telling you the truth. I see the pros and cons. If I'm with something, I tell you. If I'm not, I'm not. I don't play the fence. I'm just not like, I don't dive into everything. I'm not like an emotional like person. Like, oh, this is me. It's like, I see the pros, I see the cons. But with this stuff, what's frustrating about what Twitter did is the double standard. So for instance, they're mad at QAnon people for what they're calling harassing people. Okay, are they mad at, you know, Black Lives Matter for destroying property? Not all of them, but some of them. Same with it's not all the QAnon people doing it, it's some of them. Some of them are off base, some of them aren't. So does Black Lives Matter get blamed when multiple people have died? Does Antifa get blamed for organizing, you know, domestic terrorism? The double standards right off the jump just annoy me, because it's like, if you're going to be righteous and get rid of bad QAnoners, then are you doing it to left-wing organizations? No, they're not. They're just targeting people who are more right-leaning affiliated, and it's not fair, and it's not, they don't have the moral high ground because they allow on Twitter pornography, and also like soft pedo talk is allowed. If you look at the Twitter terms, I'm not kidding, it allows like conversation around pedophilia. Basically, it's in their terms of service. You would think I'm kidding. I looked it up myself. You know me. I don't just blab. It's real. They allow semi-talk. So it's like their priorities on Twitter are so screwed up. Right off the jump, the double standards are annoying. But also, it backfires every single time. When you censor things, people start looking into it more. So the fact that they censor QAnon is probably going to lead more people to the QAnon stuff. You can't just like fully delete it. But the reason I'm not fully on board, I think there's pros and cons. To me, everybody's an individual. I don't blame every Trump supporter or every Q person, but like a lot of Q people get lost in the sauce, and I don't agree with what they say or do. Some of them I think are nice people, and some people watch me and love it. It's not my thing personally. I'll tell you the main reason I don't like it, and it's not playing the fence, because people, I get like, this does get kind of weird with these type of things. If you question it, a lot of people, not all, most people are cool, but a lot of people freak out at you and they call you an agent and say, how dare you question it? You're a phony. It has become like a cult to a lot of people. I'm not saying all, but it does get a little weird sometimes. The main thing I don't like about it is I like to stick to reality. And like I said with the left, they subvert meaning of words. So for instance, if you don't have basic core reality, up is up, down is down, left is left, right is right. If you don't have words and dictionary definitions and an understanding of how to discern something, everything gets screwed up. The big control matrix, in my opinion, to QAnon, and I've talked about it for years, is the fact that they say that disinformation is necessary. So I watch some people who love the Q stuff, and a lot of times they don't make sense, because when they're right, they say I'm right, and when they're wrong, they say, well, disinfo is necessary. To me, that's a control system, because if I'm talking to you and 50% of what I say, guys, I'm going to tell you 80% truth and 20% lies, and it's up to you to figure out which one's truth or lies. That's a control system. It's a complete waste of your time. You're going to be running in circles forever because you don't know what's real anymore. It's the same type of subversive ideology that the left wing uses. So I have seen a lot of Christians and a lot of people treat it like a religion, and they hate it being questioned, and they get upset over everything, and they don't know what's what anymore, because anytime it's wrong, they just say disinfo is necessary. It kind of weirds me out. But the thing that they're all talking about is human trafficking and child trafficking. And that's a real thing. You could look it up on Forbes. You could look at the Epstein case and the Ghislaine Maxwell. So you notice when I talk about it and when I disagree with it, I do it accurately, and I don't delete what they're trying to talk about. That is the main thing that they're trying to do. Twitter will never talk about it. CNN never talks about it. They just act like it's this joke and that they're so crazy for thinking it. But in reality, it's a real thing. The question is, if you dismiss them and say, you're not doing it right, then you have to do it right. And you have to say where it's coming from. But they don't do that. They just dismiss the whole thing and just say it's like complete Looney Tunes. But with anything, it's like there's going to be some nonsense. There's going to be some good reporting. Some people do great reporting. Some people do terrible reporting. For me, it's not worth it to me, because I do enough research myself. So it's not my scene. It's not my movement. And I don't say that to play the fence. I say that because I really mean it. I've never really been a fan of it. But I've seen people get inspired for it and do good things. I've seen people get inspired for it and lose their mind a little bit. And I'm not smearing it as this crazy thing. I'm just saying, to be completely honest, when you say disinfo is necessary, and I'm watching these analysts who are like, they don't even know what they're saying anymore, because anytime it's right, but when it's wrong, it's disinfo, it gets really confusing. Like, to me, that's kind of a weird vibe. But, to each their own. It's definitely unfair that they're targeting that stuff. And like always, they never get to the core of what's going on. They never say, okay, this is really happening. They just say, it's all crazy, throw it out the window, we're going to get rid of it. And I also want to say, before I move on, another really, really good aspect of it is I think it's turning a lot of liberals into more conservatives. A lot of liberals, that's kind of like a gateway to realizing Trump's not that bad, because whether people want to admit it or not, when you're 18, 19, you don't look at conspiracy theory as like this crazy, they say conspiracy theory. You look up the word conspiracy, you look up the word theory, it's what Rachel Maddow did for 3 years with Russiagate. She made up a conspiracy theory. So it's not this word that scares kids away. Like, oh my God, conspiracy theory. That's a dumb way to try to shut down an argument. But anyway, a lot of kids who hate Trump are watching this stuff and then realizing there's a bigger picture going on. And then some of them get lost in the sauce. But in my personal perspective, you're better off being lost on the sauce and that and to the right than you are with all the left-wing stuff. So there's pros and cons to everything. It's definitely, I think, captivated millions of people. And Twitter, as always, is very biased, doesn't really explain themselves, and has double standards for anybody who supports the president. It's nothing new, but that's my personal thing. And I do want to say this too real quick, because during the shutdown, a lot, not all, because I know there's people here who love the Q stuff. There's people who don't, whatever. There's people during the shutdown who were really attacking me pretty heavily in the Q movement, because I said that the shutdown was a bad idea, which it was, and it was not a good thing. And they were attacking me because they thought I was an agent or something, because I was saying it was bad, because they thought that Trump, and I'm not saying everybody thought this, but a lot of these like subcultures, they thought that Trump purposely shut the country down to arrest all of the pedophiles, where there's this game that some of these people play where it's like every single thing that happens, they have to relate it to good news. I'm not saying to be like a negative Nancy, but like they were like, anomaly, how dare you say the shutdown is a bad thing? It's a good thing. Trump's going to arrest the Vatican. And I was like, dude, I don't think so. I'm not saying that there's not stuff going on. I just don't think that's what's happening. And they freaked out at me. So in a way, there's pros and cons, but I've seen the cons personally. Obviously, I don't get harassed like Chrissy Teigen, but also you read some of her tweets, they're very suspect. And in general, if you're going to shut them down, I think you should talk about what they're talking about and debunk it rather than just deleting them. That doesn't seem like a fair, righteous thing to do. But those are my thoughts. And in general, like I said, I think there's like control systems in there. It's what you make of it. But I've seen the bad end of it. I've seen the good end of it. It's not for me personally. And it is a hard thing to talk about because a lot of these people don't like to be questioned or like say that it's not 100% real. But to me, it's like, I don't know. You get what I'm saying? I don't follow everything Trump does. I don't follow everything Tucker Carlson does. I'm certainly not going to put my entire faith into an anonymous poster. And you say that and people freak out. But it's like, I don't know. When you throw in disinfo is necessary, and then like I'm watching somebody on BitChute and she's literally saying, Q said this, but I don't believe Q, even though I believe him because disinfo is necessary. I'm like, lady, you're doing way too much for me. Like you can't listen to somebody that tells you that 30% of what they say is fake. It's going to run you in circles. But like I said, that's only a small like everybody does their own thing. A lot of people do great stuff. They're inspired, but for me, it's not for me. And I just want to say before I move on, I'm just being honest. I could sit here and lie to you and say I hate it. I could sit here and lie to you and say I love it. I really don't. And this is how I feel. But I don't know. It's a tough thing to talk about because people don't want to hear that. Someone said, I agree with you, man. Well, Aaron, you seem like a reasonable guy. That's what it's about. You know, it's the same with when I talk about Trump. Like, people don't like to question Trump, but at the same time, some of the best things happen when Tucker Carlson questions the president. Tucker doesn't hate the president. Tucker just wants to do certain things, and it actually works. Everyone has to play their part. Everybody does something special, and I'm just playing my lane, and I do what inspires me, and vice versa. But someone said, think for yourself, not what they feed you. It's a confusing time, and I'll say this before we move on. The media and Twitter and politicians, all the people that hate this stuff, there's a reason that conspiracy theories and people like Alex Jones and QAnon and all this stuff, and I say it in quotes because I think it's a term that is almost useless now, like racist, because they've over-exaggerated with that term and they've like defiled it. But in general, the real reason people care about this stuff, there's multiple, but the biggest reason people like this stuff, if you really wanted to stop it, is because we're being lied to so much. The government lies too much. The scientists are lying. The media's lying. The politicians are lying. So when you get lied to 1,000 times, it's almost like psychological abuse. It's like you've abused people for 20 years with so much deception and so many lies and so much stuff. And then, you call the conspiracy theorists crazy in 1995 for saying there's something up with the baby powder, there's something up with the product. And then 10 years later, after you smear them and call them crazy, then there's a commercial on the television that says you could sue that company because the product really was bad. So if you knew the product was bad 10 years ago, you're the crazy one. And then 10 years later, when everyone knows the product's bad, they never go back and apologize to you. So the reason that these movements and people gain such big followings, it's not their fault. It's not the message board's fault. It's not Alex's fault. It's your fault for not providing something better. I don't destroy, MSNBC and Q and Alex to be good. I just do good work. And if people watch me, they watch me. And if they want to watch someone else, that means they prefer them. And that's okay. But it's like, I don't need to destroy everyone to prove my point. The reason they need to destroy is because they don't have the moral high ground. They're not honest. So it's like, if you compare Alex Jones to like CNN, you might not like Alex Jones, but it's like, is CNN like the moral high ground of standard? No, they're terrible. So of course people are going to gravitate. So if you really want to, eliminate these groups, you just have to be more honest. But that's the one thing they don't want to be. They can't tell the truth. They can't compete in a fair market. They can't have the same standards. Well, if you can't harass like that, then we can't harass you. You have mainstream publications trying to harass Tucker Carlson and harass an old lady for being a Trump supporter. So you're allowed to like physically harass people, but digitally you